3.3 by Marc Kenneally. Arousal. Arousal is termed as the intensity of behaviour. By the intensity of behaviour, it is referring to a different degree of emotional energy in different situations. It has two branches known as somatic and cognitive arousal. Cognitive arousal is also known as psychological arousal and refers to the mind. This could be negative thoughts of the moment, or it could be moment-to-moment worry. Somatic arousal is related to the changes of state of your body. This could be change in the heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing rate. If the body is deprived or put under stress, then arousal levels in the body increase, and we are motivated to behave in such a way as to reduce arousal levels back to the optimum level. This is known as homeostasis. There are three main arousal theories, and these are the drive theory, inverted U theory, and the catastrophe theory. Drive theory. The drive theory states that there is a positive correlation between arousal and performance. This means that there is an increase in arousal levels, then there is performance levels will increase. An increase in the theory. An example of the theory could be a tennis player when they're serving. If the first serve hits the net, then the crowd gets louder, and therefore the pressure and therefore the arousal also increases. In the second serve, the performer then makes a successful serve due to the increase in arousal. This would back up the drive theory, as the arousal level increases, as so does the performance. Novice versus expert performers. Novice performers in the cognitive or associative phase of learning shouldn't be subjected to conditions which would evoke high arousal. This is because if there is a high level of arousal, the performer would be likely to go to their dominant response, which wouldn't contain the correct technique, and would therefore be more likely to make a mistake. A dominant response is the action which the performer is likely to carry out due to them being the most comfortable doing this action and in a certain way. This is why novice performers should learn in an environment of low arousal, so they can concentrate on getting the skills learned correctly. However, expert performers should be exposed to high levels of arousal, as it would result in them going back to their dominant response, which would most likely be the correct technique. This would therefore help their performance. A criticism of the drive theory is that it doesn't explain what happens when an expert performer makes a mistake or fails. An example of this could be Gilbert Arenas in the 2006 NBA playoffs, where his team faced elimination and he had 2 free throws to potentially win the game. An opposing performer started to trash talk him, and therefore that increased his arousal levels and increased the pressure of the situation. However, due to the high levels of arousal, he missed both free throws, and his team ended up losing the game and being eliminated from the playoffs. Inverted U theory. The inverted U theory states that there is more to a correlation between arousal and performance. It also suggests that there is a point of too much, which is known as over-arousal, or too little arousal, which is under-arousal, and therefore there is an optimum level of arousal. It states that the performer is in a state of under-arousal, that the performance levels will decrease due to the information overload and the performer not being able to make accurate decisions. However, if they are in a state of over-arousal, then the field of concentration narrows massively. This could mean environmental cues may be missed, and the performer is in a state of near panic, which is known as hypervigilance. Therefore, the performer may have a decrease in performance, but it is also possible that elite performers have a maintained performance level. This means that optimum level of performance would be between over and under arousal, and would be the ideal level for performers to learn and compete at. Here is the inverted U theory diagram. An experiment that could take place could be the performer could try and throw some balls into a box, say 5 balls into a fairly big box. This is a fairly simple instruction, and everyone should be capable of doing it. The first time they try throwing the balls into a box, they should have a total silence, which would create an environment of low arousal, and see how many they get in the box. Next, they should throw the balls again, but this time the performer should give them a team talk beforehand and cheer them on while not shouting at them. This would give them an example of optimum arousal, and they should be able to get more balls in the box this time. Finally, they should try again and this time the other performer should shout and clap at them, creating an environment of high arousal, and then their score should lower again. The criticism of the inverted U theory is that there is a smooth transfer from optimum arousal to over-arousal on the diagram, and it is more likely to be a sharp transfer between the two. Catastrophe theory. The third and final theory looking at arousal and its effects on the exercise is the catastrophe theory. The catastrophe theory states that the performance levels increase as the arousal levels increase. However, when it reaches a point of catastrophe, the arousal levels stay high. However, the performance levels rapidly drop. This is known as a catastrophe. When this point is reached, the performance will either keep on declining or it will manage to get back to either the optimum point of arousal or slightly lower. Here is a diagram of the catastrophe theory. An example of the catastrophe theory could be a goalkeeper in football. This could be an example if the goalkeeper has saved a lot of goals during the game before this moment. However, the goalkeeper might have had a catastrophe and not saved 2 consecutive goals. However, their performance would either carry on decreasing and they wouldn't save any more goals for the rest of the game, or their performance may be able to return to where it was before. And then if it went back to where it was before, the goalkeeper might be able to save every other shot for the rest of the game. Another example of the catastrophe theory could be a basketball player having a good game. However, they may commit a foul and then get the ball stolen from them. This would be a catastrophe as they've had a turnover and caused a foul. They could then either keep on making mistakes such as fouling or turning the ball over a lot, and would result in them getting put on the bench. However, they may be able to turn things around and be able to control themselves. This could enable them to get past the defender or get back to the level of performance they were playing at before the catastrophe. This theory explains what could happen in every situation and therefore doesn't have any or many criticisms, as it explains most situations as well as working with the inverted U theory. The only criticism is that it doesn't explain how someone can recover from a catastrophe decline back to where they were. Anxiety. Anxiety is a negative experience of stress and can be caused by worry or apprehension. Perhaps due to the fear of failing in a competitive situation, there are 2 forms of anxiety. These are cognitive anxiety and somatic anxiety. Cognitive anxiety is the thought component of anxiety, whereas somatic anxiety is the physical form of it. Examples of cognitive anxiety could be thoughts of doubt, concern over their ability to compete in the task, worry or panic. These tend to occur before the event, hours before the event. An example of this could be in the change room before the warming up has even started. Someone could be worrying. However, examples of somatic anxiety could be heavy breathing or quicker heart rate, and this would tend to occur minutes before the event, such as during the team talk before the game. There is a second dimension in terms of anxiety, and these are known as trait anxiety and state anxiety. State anxiety is a person's immediate condition of anxiety in any one situation. This is stimulated anxiety, whereas trait anxiety is a general deposition of perceive certain situations as threatening. It's the natural state of anxiety. An example of trait anxiety in sport could be if 2 performers were asked to take part in certain sporting tasks. The first task they should complete is a free throw. The performer with the higher trait anxiety level is more likely to have a higher anxiety level compared to the other performer. An example of state anxiety could be a sprinter, as before the race they'd be experience levels of anxiety as they're waiting for the starting gun. This is because they're nervous about the race and also anticipating the gun. There are 2 main ways to reduce anxiety using techniques. These are cognitive anxiety management and somatic anxiety management. Cognitive anxiety management refers to management techniques that deal with the thought processes and feelings, whereas somatic anxiety management refers to management techniques that deal with physical symptoms of anxiety. Examples of cognitive anxiety management techniques could be deep breathing, mental rehearsal, being confident, relaxing, warming up and paying attention to the relevant cues. However, the negative side of this is that the performer needs to do them beforehand and can't do them live within playing in the game. Examples of somatic anxiety management could be biofeedback, negative thought stopping, or positive mental rehearsal. However, the negative side of this is that they aren't good in life situations either, and biofeedback needs a lot of money in order to be carried out. To determine the natural levels of anxiety in a performer, a SCAT test could be used. A SCAT test stands for Sports Competition Anxiety Test. Stress. Stress is a psychological state produced by perceived psychological, physiological and psychological forces. It is often linked with negative feeling. Stress is often caused by a stressor, which is the environment which can induce stress. As a result of this, the body has a stress response, which is physiological changes that occur as a result of stress. An example of this could be crowd being a stressor and the performer feeling nervous or scared as a result, which would be the stress response. Long-term stress should be avoided as it can result in high blood pressure, lack of sleep, fatigue, and lack in performance. However, not all stress is bad. There are two main types of stress, and they are known as eustress and distress. Eustress is a good form of stress which can give you a sense of fulfillment and enjoyment. Some athletes seek out the stress as they like the challenge. Eustress can increase their performance by increasing their skill level and focusing their attention. This could benefit them in intrinsic motivation. However, distress is a negative form of stress. It's an extreme form of nervousness, anxiety, apprehension, or worry as a result of perceived inability to meet demands. Eustress can be used in sports, for example, an athlete playing better at home games as a crowd, which is the stressor, would make them stressed, but they would also might be able to perform better in front of the crowd as they're supporting them. An example of distress could be a footballer missing a penalty for the win due to the loud crowd at an away game, because they're rooting against them. There are 4 stages. So demand, so this could be the final 100 metres to last round in boxing. Stage 2, which is the perception of the demand, so it was positive. Stage 3 is the increased arousal levels, and in this situation it's eustress. So the outcome is that it's positive stress, and it will increase their performance. Distress is similar, so there's demand, so this could be the last round in boxing or the final 100 metres. The perception of demand, again, is stage 2, but this time it's a negative perception. And stage 3, again, the arousal levels increase, but it's distress, and the outcome of this is their performance is decreased. Causes of stress. The cause of stress could be one of 5 things: external, internal, personal, occupational, or sports environment. External is stress that comes from external factors. Examples of this could be due to environment being too loud, negative social interaction, major life events such as death, or just day-to-day hassle. Internal stress is stress which comes from inside. An example of this could be lack of sleep, or being too self-critical, or illness. Personal, this could be stress coming from people close to you, whether this is family, friends, or whether it is your health or your finance. Occupational is to do with your job, so examples of this could be unemployment or not being satisfied where you are, having a bad boss. The sports environment is stress which comes from being in a sporting environment. For example, stress could come from importance of an event or the uncertainty of the surroundings. So obviously there's the stresses, so there's the environment changes that cause a stress response. The stress response is the physiological changes that occur due to stress, and then this results in the stress experience, which is the way that we perceive the situation. The GAS is the General Adaptation Syndrome. This theory is thought to be how our bodies deal with stress in different situations. So it starts off with an alarm reaction, it then goes into resistance and exhaustion.